Welcome in, everybody, to another week of UFL Weekly. I am Kyle Krajewski, joined by Mr. Perfect, Mr. Fantastic, Zach Cole. Zach, 3 weeks into the season now, heading into week 4. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, but before I even talk about how I'm doing, I need to just shout out your former XFL DC Defenders jersey there, now UFL Defenders, only
Stuck
undefeated
around.
team going in the league here. So I'm excited to talk about these new standing jumbles that we got. It's a lot different look from last year. So and we have football on Easter weekend, which is better than anything. So let's get into it.
We talk about it every year. Easter football. We love to have it.
It's a thing of beauty.
Before we get into the week, we have a few news and notes, a few jumbles again this past week. First off, in the St. Louis game last week, the UFL announced that the championship game will take place in St. Louis, where it took place last year. St. Louis consistently has the highest fan turnout, so I think they're just trying to get fans into the stands for championship weekend. Second bit of notes here, I'll combine 2 and 3 here. Uh, Showboat's head coach Ken Wisenhunt steps away from the team once again. This time it feels like it's for good. And Brahma's head coach Wade Phillips also taking a leave from his head coaching duties, where he did not coach this past week on the sidelines due to health. So I think this is also related to that. Um, Showboat's Jim Turner stepping in as interim once again, as he did weeks for week 1. And they brought in Noel Mazzone as the new offensive coordinator, who has previous spring football experience with the New Orleans Breakers and the Pittsburgh Maulers, while the Brahmas, Peyton Pardee, who was brought up to offensive coordinator last week for AJ, I think it's AJ Smith. New OC last week was interim last week and now kind of steps in as like permanent interim head coach for the Brahmas. So some head coaching shakeups here again for Showboats and the Brahmas.
Yeah,
Wiz and Hunt once again stepping away.
talk about a career ascension right there for Peyton Pardee. I mean,
Oh
he's
yeah.
he went from position coach to coordinator to head coach in the span of 3 weeks. So good for him. I mean, hopefully he can get them rolling a little bit because 0-3 is not very pretty for the Brahmas right now. So maybe he can get them kind of on the right track where they need to be. So good for him for getting that career path moving though.
Hey, the Brahmas had arguably their best week last week. So if Pardee kind of continues on that track, maybe he's the captain to steer this ship correctly. In other unfortunate news, DC wide receiver Ty Scott broke his arm on Sunday and was placed on IR. No timetable to return. Unfortunately, I see this as a little bit of a season ender for him. He was having a fantastic year, second in receiving yards in the league, having a damn good season so far.
Yeah, this definitely stinks on two different levels. It stinks for DC losing one of their most reliable offensive pieces, but it also kind of stinks too because the spring football season is such a short season. We only see a 10-week season with the two playoff weeks. It's not like he can kind of come back from it like we see a lot of NFL guys do. They'll break something early and end up being back
Yeah.
by the end of the season playoff time. So this definitely stinks for Ty Scott and for DC. But he's definitely been a key factor to their success so far. So he's got, hopefully he can stay invested with the team and feel like he's been, just as much of a contributor to this if it goes well for them in the end.
I hope so. But also Ty Scott, get better, heal
Hmm.
quickly.
Definitely.
Hoping the best for you. Quickly running through last week's scores, we saw the Birmingham Stallions last Friday kind of come back to win against the Arlington Renegades 10-9. Houston Roughnecks got their first win of the season against the Memphis Showboats in an 18-17 score. San Antonio Brahmas lost out to the Panthers winning 26-23. And the Defenders taking care of business Sunday with a 27-15 win over the Battlehawks to remain the sole undefeated team. A lot of close games this past weekend. Defenders kind of taking the largest distance there, but the other one's a 1 point game, 1 point game, 3 point game, all really coming down to the final seconds. It was a close and hectic weekend of some UFL football, and hopefully we get the same this week.
Yeah, it's I just wanted to point out that the game that was it's kind of funny, the game that had the biggest spread coming into the week, I think that was that St. Louis, if I remember correctly? Or they were close to the biggest spread. That was a full touchdown. That was a -7 spread,
Oh
if I
yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah.
right. And it went over -7 the other way, which is super interesting. DC definitely took care of business. So all right. So without further ado, Kyle, let's hop into the previews for this upcoming week.
Taking a look at week 4 coming up, we kickstart the weekend Friday night football at 8 p.m. We have the Memphis Showboats taking on the Michigan Panthers in Michigan. The Showboats are currently 0-3, taking on the 2-1 Panthers. Michigan favored by 8.5, over under set at 35.5. Memphis last week against the Roughnecks kind of came down to a failed 2 point attempt um, to win the game at 13 seconds left and tried for the 4th and 15 instead of the onside kick. So they had a close one last week. I think they're really itching to get that first win, and they get another week with Jim Turner at head coach. So offensively, I think we can really expect a revolving door at quarterback between Troy Williams and EJ Perry. Perry's the listed starter as he was last week, but I think a few poor decisions from Perry led to Williams coming in the fourth quarter, kind of leading that comeback that the Showboats almost had. Um, oh, completely forgot. This is a week 1 rematch. Uh, Panthers won week 1, 26-12 against the same Jim Turner team. So hopefully Turner kind of steps in and says, all right, we got to do better than that this time. Um, but on Michigan, we have the offensive player of the week. Quarterback Bryce Perkins stepped in for Etling during their second drive for an injury, and Perkins just kind of stepped in to be the guy for them. 193 passing yards, two rushing touchdowns, uh, helped by special teams player of the week, wide receiver Devin Ross with a total of 212 kick return yards. Um, we have a running back by committee building here in Michigan. Uh, Nate McCrary got the start, but Jaden Sheridan kind of got his opportunity in the second half and did kind of ran away with it. 7 rushes, 59 yards, and a touchdown to kind of be the guy on the ground in the second half. So
Mhm.
between McCrary, Sheridan, and this is a backfield, especially with Perkins being able to run the ball, that it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's I wonder if um Ken Wisenhunt is just deciding to only coach against teams not called the Panthers this season. Maybe he'll be back next week. He's just got something against the Panthers, but yeah, no, it's hopefully with Jim Turner back at head coach again, they can get some stability. That seems to be like the word of the season this year is just stability because there seems to be a lot of moving parts in the UFL this spring. But for Michigan, it definitely looks like they've found something good with Bryce Perkins. I've kind of always I thought all along that he's kind of the better quarterback of the two. So I'm happy
Yeah,
to have seen him taking over the reins a little bit in this game and being awarded Offensive Player of the Week. And a running back by committee is probably a great thing in spring football if you think about it. I mean,
yeah,
it one injury can really just absolutely decimate you if you're focusing on one guy specifically. So for them to have 2, 3, 4 guys in the backfield that can run the ball for them, that's definitely a positive spin on the backfield take there. So all right, with that being said, let's talk about the odds for this week. Actually, you know what, Kyle? I want to hear you say how last week went first.
Okay. All right. For these game picks, I'm having a rough year. I'm consistently getting 3 right. And if you don't know, there are 8 picks made. So it's I'm 3-5 seems to be my record here. But Zach went even 4-4.
Yeah, I'm gloating
Continues to
about going
do
500.
even plus. Way to go, dude. So I guess I'll start. So you can kind of assume that odds are 3 of these will be correct this week. But I'm hoping it's better. Um, Michigan minus 8.5 against this. Oh, this Memphis team is looking rough. I'm going to take Michigan minus 8.5. Oh, 35.5 is low. I'm going to take the over. Oh, I don't want to. Give me the over. Yuck. I think both offenses are slowly figuring it out. Um, I think Memphis gets the benefit of whoever I think they put in second will probably perform better. And I think because of that, it'll spark some juice. 35.5 is low, but Michigan's also figuring it out offensively. Yeah, give me the over. That's a tough one. It's gonna be like 35 total points. It's gonna kill me.
I am very on the fence about this one too, if it makes you feel any better, Kyle. But we did see Michigan put up 17 points last week, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they were never mind, it's not a lot. They were they were right in the middle of the pack in terms of league scoring last week. With the change at head coach, what do we do here? I'm going to go ahead and say that Memphis covers. Give me Memphis plus
Oh,
8.5. And I'm not going to get too bold. I'm going to go over with you here. I'll go over 38.5 or 35.5, excuse me. I think Michigan is going to win this pretty comfortably, but I still think that the Showboats will keep this close enough to cover the spread. That's
all right. I got a
I
question for you.
yes.
It looks like the live odds just changed while we were recording here.
Uh-oh.
It is now Michigan minus 7.5.
Oh, see, they knew those boats. They
Does
knew.
this change anything for you?
um,
We'll keep our picks at 8.5, but I'm
yeah,
curious on
leave it
your.
at 8.5. I'm gonna stick with what I got. I think it was on the sheet. We honor what's on the sheet pre-show.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like what
with
I
you.
got there. All right, let's hop into our second game of the week, Kyle. We have the St. Louis Battlehawks taking on the Arlington Renegades. The Arlington Renegades are coming off a tough 1-point loss to the Birmingham Stallions in week 3. And the Battlehawks are coming off a surprising loss to the DC Defenders by 12, actually, in week 3. So two teams looking to get back in the win column. They're both, I would say, kind of towards the top of the league at 2-1 right now. St. Louis is favored in this game, despite not being the home team. They are favored by 1.5 points, and the over/under is set at 39.5, which is pretty high, I would say. So, as I mentioned, both teams are coming off a loss, so they're looking to get back in the win column. St. Louis was kind of really having a hard time with the line last week and was checking down a whole lot to the running backs, which is never really what you game plan for coming into a game. It's not like, oh, we're going to kill them with the check down. It's just kind of one of the things that inevitably happens. So we saw Sailors with 7 for 91. And Frank Darby who had one catch for 35 yards and a touchdown, and Ja'Cour Pearson, that's a familiar name for us, was the only receiver with over 1 reception, and he had 4 catches for 1 yard. So not great for St. Louis. There's definitely some things that they can look to improve on going into this game against the Renegades. We've mentioned in the past, though, that the DC defense is just stifling. So it's not shocking to see that their offensive game plan was disrupted as much as it was last week. Arlington, however, went with the field goal method in week 3, and that clearly didn't pan out for them. 3 field goals does not equal a win usually. So they need to figure out how to get into the end zone if they want to be able to hang with St. Louis and hopefully beat St. Louis. But they did have Birmingham with their backs against the walls, but unfortunately Birmingham was able to punch one in and take the win in that game late. So for Arlington, though, there's just really no offensive identity. I know we had mentioned their balance in the past, with Luis Perez and their running game. I mean, I believe I have to double check my leaders here. Yeah, Kalen Ballage is leading the league in rushing yards right now
Yeah.
on 37 attempts. But they just don't really seem to capitalize on anything when they get down into make or break situations. So for them, I think if they can figure out whether they want to start throwing the ball into the end zone or just pounding it in when they get down there with Balaj, they need to make up their minds and they need to do something sooner rather than later because the defense is good, but it's gonna falter eventually. You can't rely, you can't just strictly rely on defense and field goals to win games. So with that being said, I want to just refresh you, Kyle, before I throw this question at you. St. Louis is favored by 1.5 points, and the over/under is at 39.5. So, what do you like in this game?
It stinks because the books know that Arlington likes to play a close game, like a
Mm-hmm.
damn close game. Winning
Mm-hmm.
by 2 weeks ago, winning by 1 last week, or losing by 1 last week. And then St. Louis, I mean, they're in Arlington. If they were, ooh, I still think the Battlehawks are the better team. And because of that, I'm going to take St. Louis minus 1.5.
Okay.
I If it were more than this, I'd take Arlington, but I think it's going to be like a 3-point win
Hmm.
from St. Louis. But man, this Arlington defense is good. And because of that, I'm going to take the under.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
That's a high
St.
point total. 40 is a high point total.
Yeah,
39 and a
that's
half.
a
But
for these two teams, they have the weapons to do it, but they
mm-hmm.
won't, and it's frustrating. But yeah, give me the under. St. Louis minus 1.5.
Yeah, I'm actually also going to ride with you on both of these picks, Kyle. I do think St. Louis is the better team. I know that Arlington likes to play close games, and I think that come the end of the season, we're going to be talking about Arlington as a playoff team. But I think that they're still trying to figure things out and try to figure out their offensive identity, like we just alluded to a couple minutes ago. So I do like St. Louis to be able to put up some more points on them, relying on Manny Wilkins, just having a good game, being a solid, game manager like he is. And until Arlington is able to find the end zone pretty consistently, I'm having a hard time picking them to win, especially by a point and a half. And for that same reason, I'm also going to go with the under. I like this to be low scoring on Arlington's side and medium scoring on St. Louis's side, if that makes sense, somewhere in the teens, maybe 20s. But I think they're going to kind of give Arlington a hard time.
Love it. Third game this week, our Saturday night game, 7 p.m. We have the 2-1 Birmingham Stallions taking on the 1-2 Houston Roughnecks. Uh, Birmingham currently favored, set minus 7.5. Over under set to 36.5. Birmingham won their game in the final minute thanks to a controversial false start penalty that negated an interception. Zach, I don't know. I bet you saw this, but uh, threw an interception to basically end the game, but there was a false start, and with the whole like, oh, we review every play, there was a false start, which basically negated the interception, so they called it back, and that just led Birmingham to be able to run down and score to take the lead. Uh,
Yeah, on Kyle, just to hop in real quick. Unfortunately, that's like the pro and con of this replay
yeah,
system. Like if you want the game to be played cleanly, this is how it's done. But if sometimes it's going to rob you of those big plays because you can go back and you can find
yeah,
something small and say, "Oh, that was a penalty first," so that negates
yeah,
whatever just happened. So,
yeah. This Birmingham team still also, I guess, to me, struggles or is struggling to find their offensive identity. Matt Corral is most likely going to or will be our starting quarterback for Birmingham again this week. He had a rough game last week in decision making. We just talked about an interception that basically didn't exist when the drive needed him to not throw that, but luckily kind of got bailed out and was able to score and win the game for them. But Corral overall kind of it made some weird decisions. Their running back room last week was little bit funky. We got CJ Maribel kind of being the lead guy, most likely going into this week with rookie person kind of being the guy behind him. But Dion Kane looking to potentially play this week. And Jay Sternberger always kind of being the guy. Um, Kind of still hasn't found who they are offensively this week. Houston, on the other hand, is figuring things out. They got their first win of the season last week. Their defense is like really, really stepping up. I'll especially call out safety Leon O'Neal, who we talked about last week, being last week's uh, defensive player of the week. This week was kind of the big force to them, kind of having the win with the pick six. He's currently my leading candidate for defensive player of the year. Um, but we should see quarterback Nolan Henderson get the start. He looked good stepping in last week for the team, kind of being a really big also another big driving force to them getting their first win, turning things around last week. So Houston figuring things out. But Zach, I'm gonna toss it to you for these picks. Birmingham -7.5, over under 36.5. Two teams kind of feeling like I mean 7.5 is a big margin of victory, but I think people are still looking at Houston Roughnecks being a rough team to figure out, while Birmingham being the three-time back-to-back-to-back spring football champions. But would love to hear your thoughts on how this game's going to go.
Well, I can tell you right now that I am going to speak this into existence, and it's going to go the complete opposite way of what I'm going to say right now. But I'm going to roll with it anyway, just because I think Birmingham is having a hard time figuring out their offense this year. And for that reason, I think that this is going to be a closer game than people think it's going to be. So I am going to take Houston plus 7.5. I don't necessarily think Houston is going to win the game, but I think that, like we saw last week with Arlington, it might be a dogfight. And I do think Arlington's a better team than Houston, but I still think that Houston's going to give them a tough time. They're playing with some confidence right now, which is always a good thing. So for that reason, I am going to go Houston plus 7.5, and I will go over 36.5 in this game. So give me the points a little bit, but give me Houston to keep it close.
I I'm going to join you on the Houston pick. I think Birmingham's offensive identity being a question mark and Houston's defense being consistently solid that we've seen these past few weeks. At least helping them be in the positions to win, and at least try to help them be in the positions to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think Houston's going to keep it closer than the 7.5 for sure. So I'm joining you, Houston minus or plus 7.5, but I'm going to take the under. I think this is going to annoyingly be a defensive game, uh, kind of handled by Houston. I don't want to keep overstating how good Houston's defense is, because this could be a good test for them. But I feel pretty good about them, and Birmingham's defense is pretty damn good. I think it's just going to be a defensive chess match here between these two teams. So Houston plus 7.5, under 36.5.
I like it. I can definitely get behind your thinking. I'm with you. All right, so hopping into the final game of the week, we have the San Antonio Brahmas taking on the DC Defenders in DC. This is an 0-3 team, one of the two winless teams in the league, versus an undefeated team, the only undefeated team in the league. Am I saying that? Yeah, the only undefeated
Yep.
team in the league in DC. DC is favored right now by 7.5 points. The spread is DC minus 7.5. And the over-under is 37.5 points. So to start off with San Antonio, obviously a little bit of turmoil coming into the week. You mentioned Wade Phillips is officially taking a leave from his head coaching duties, even though he didn't coach last week. That's still got to be a lot going on for them. And we mentioned Peyton Pardee is stepping in as the head coach here. They did, however, look better last week. They scored some points. Pardee was the offensive coordinator, and that actually kind of led to them scoring some points, which was good. Destroying Donald De La Haye. Am I saying that right? Is that his full legal?
Delahaye, yeah.
Yeah, so he had 3 field goals in this game, but unfortunately missed the game tying field goal at the end of the game when the clock was expiring, which does kind of stink. But it was good to see him find some success in the kicking game, and I believe was that the 55 yarder he had also. Was that this week? I'm trying to make sure I don't mix up my weeks here. I think he had a 55 yarder if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the main issue for the Brahmas was the penalties against them. They had 11 penalties for 103 yards, and they just did not seem to come at beneficial times. Not that penalties ever really do, unless you're the Stallions and it's a false start before before an
Yeah.
interception. That's the only opportunity penalty. But anyhow, penalties killed them, and this is a team that can't afford penalties right now. They just need things to go their way, and penalties, negative yards are not helping their cause whatsoever. So hopefully, with Pardee taking over as the head coach, hopefully they can keep that ball rolling. The points will flow, and maybe they can keep this game competitive. But it's a bad week to be playing the best team in the league with the DC Defenders. Yeah, flex that jersey. That's good stuff. Um, so DC what looked really really good against St. Louis last week, and their D line was essentially the dominating deciding factor in that game. They did switch defensive coordinators, another team that we saw kind of move some things around. And that didn't really seem to affect them whatsoever. They still had 3 sacks. They had 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. They were pretty dominant on the defensive side of the ball. And when your defense is balling that much, it kind of just puts your offense in a beneficial situation every time they're touching the ball. So Andre Mintz was the weekly defensive player of the week. With he had 2 of those 3 sacks, and he had both of the forced fumbles, and he even recovered one of those forced fumbles as well. So DC is clicking on all cylinders right now as the home team, playing an 0-3 team. Is it a trap game? I don't know.
Oh,
What do you think, Kyle? DC minus 7.5, over under at 37.5. Give me your thoughts.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't think this was a trap game as well. All right. San Antonio could get hot, could get their win when they need it against an undefeated. You know what? I'm taking it. I don't think they're going to win, but I'm going to go San Antonio plus 7.5.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be a closer game. I think DC still comes out on top. I hope they do. But I think San Antonio's cooking something up here. I hate to say it, but I think losing Ty Scott on the DC side kind of slows down their consistency in the air. I think we're going to see a lot more Abram Smith running the ball, and because of that, I think we're going to see less points, so less margin of win. I'm going to take what was it for the Brahmas last week? 23, 26, 27 from the DC Defenders last week. Give me the over.
Mm,
I'll take it.
all right.
Over 37.5 on the backs of Abram Smith. And, who do I think is going to score on on the San Antonio side? Let me check one thing right here first. Uh, bu- 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 Give me a touchdown for Anthony McFarland.
Mm.
But yeah, San Antonio plus 7.5, over 37.5. Yeah, lock it in.
Well, I am going to go opposite of you here on the
Please.
spread pick. I'm going to go DC minus 7.5. This does stink like a trap game, but I do think that DC's defense will prevent them from will
Yeah,
prevent
that
them
defense is
from
nasty.
yeah, from being in too bad of a situation here. And I think that their experience in the backfield with Abram Smith will just kind of keep them in a very calm position where they will be perfectly fine if things come out kind of not going according to plan. Teamu's an experienced leader, so I think that they will be a-okay in this one. Um, as for the over under, however, I am gonna go under
Oh,
on this game. I know that that's a little unorthodox with a wide spread there, but I think that San Antonio is going to take another week or two to really figure this thing out, and I think that DC is um, playing well right now. I'm not underestimating the loss of Ty Scott. However, I do think that that's going to take them a couple weeks to kind of sort out. I was just looking through some of their other receiving options, and I see Roland,
yeah,
Chris Roland, I think his name is,
yeah.
and
He'll probably be the main guy.
yeah, and he's a little bit further down here. What's his name? Sorry, I'm holding up the show here. Mickens, Jaden Mickens is also there for them as their third leading receiver behind Scott and Roland. So I don't know. It's going to take them a little while to figure that out, but I think in the short term they're going to need to sort of look other places, and that might lead to a more ground heavy, slower game plan. So I'm thinking the points won't come as quick in this game.
Interesting, but I'll allow it. Yeah, you're going opposite on both of those with
I
me.
am.
Oh.
This week's gonna either go really good or really bad.
Hey,
I
who
don't
knows?
know.
Maybe this is the week I get more than 3 picks right. Who
It could
knows?
be.
Maybe I get every pick but these 2 right. Who knows? All right, well that'll do it for this week. Our week 4 preview. Thank you for tuning in. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcast platform or podcast in your ears. Uh, just search UFL Weekly. If you're listening to us, find us on YouTube. If you want to see our beautiful faces, if you want to see this beautiful XFL Defenders Jordan Teamo jersey I got, find us on YouTube. We are UFL Weekly on there, or if you search at UFL Weekly, we should show up. I am on X for UFL Weekly, on UFL_weekly. I basically just repost or retweet all the big news, scores, keep the timeline as updated on UFL stuff as I can. And that'll do it for this week. Happy Easter, everybody.
Mhm.
Happy Easter football weekend. Always love having that. And Zach, I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds like a plan, brother. See ya.